Now, wouldn't it be great if a coffee break could help you export your projects faster from Adobe Premiere Pro? Well, in this video, I'm gonna tell you that it is possible, and I'm also gonna show you how. Terrible, nice, terrible, nice, terrible, nice. You get the idea. Here's the first tip of the day. Free lighting equipment. Well, free lighting equipment. Obviously this isn't free. What's up, friends? My name is Chris, and today I will talk about how a coffee break and a few simple settings in Adobe Premiere Pro can help you export your projects a lot faster. As you probably know, when you're working in Adobe Premiere Pro, the software actually saves previews of your project's entire time. Now, the problem with your export time actually has to do with these previews. You're in a way saving the wrong kind of previews. I mean, they're not technically wrong, they're probably really fast to work with. Just as an example, I shoot everything in Apple ProRes, and I export everything in Apple ProRes. So if I make sure that Premiere saves previews in an Apple ProRes format, later on, when I'm about to export this, I can actually tell Premiere Pro to use these previews in the final export. So what you need to do is change these low-end previews to high-end previews. Now, this might sound a little bit confusing, but don't worry, it's not at all as technical as it sounds. So what you want to do is go up to Sequence and hit Sequence Settings. This is going to bring up a menu for the sequence you're working in for that specific timeline. Now, if you're like me, editing and shooting in Apple ProRes, you want to change your editing mode to Custom. That should be up at the top. You want to go down to Video Previews, Preview File Format, and change that to QuickTime. And below that, you want to change your codec to your preferred Apple ProRes codec. For me, that is Apple ProRes 422HQ. When you hit OK, Premiere is going to give you a prompt telling you that it's going to delete all the previous previews. Delete all the previews that it's created up to that point, which is fine because you want to create new previews anyway with that new format you just selected. Just hit OK. And if you want to render your entire sequence, you can just go up to Sequence again and hit Render In to Out. A quick way to render your entire timeline is also just to hit Enter on your keyboard. So what do I mean with a coffee break helping you to render faster? Every time you leave your computer, you need to get into the habit of rendering your timeline. Now, you can choose to render your entire timeline or just parts of it. And this way, every time you leave your computer, you're making sure that it's working for you as you're gone doing something else, like making coffee or going to the gym for a workout or whatever you like to do to, keep you sane. All right, so your computer's working hard, rendering previews, you're making coffee. Coffee's done, rendering's done, as indicated by this green bar in your timeline. This is, if not rendered, either red or yellow. There's only one more setting we need to adjust before exporting, and that is in the export settings. Navigate to File, Export, Media, or hit Command M on your keyboard if you're on a Mac. This will launch the export settings. So make sure the format is QuickTime, and that the preset is in a Apple ProRes 422HQ format, just like our previews. Then, almost at the bottom, there's a checkbox called Use Previews. You want to make sure this is checked. This will make sure that Premiere is using the previews we've already rendered during our coffee break in this export. Meaning it doesn't have to render them again. It pretty much just copies and pastes our previews into this final output. And that's it. Just hit export or Q if you want to send this to Media Encoder instead. That's what I usually do. And just enjoy your fast rendering times. Now, these are all the settings that I'm using, so this might be different for you. If you're working in a different format, if you're exporting into something else, do some research. Like, what is your camera shooting in? What are you editing in? What are you exporting in? Then make sure you're customizing these settings to work in your advantage. I shoot in Apple ProRes, I edit in Apple ProRes, and I export in Apple ProRes. So for me, this is perfect. The downside of this is obviously that these high-end previews are gonna take up a lot more space on your hard drive. Hopefully all of this made some sense to you. I'm not sure if I did a good job explaining all of this. Please let me know down below if it did make any sense. And if you got something out of this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see some more videos in the future. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Bye. I just want to say that I don't usually have a photo of myself as a desktop on my computer. It's just, this one is really nice and bright, so you know, it looks good on my face for this thing. Otherwise, kind of awkward. Just wanted to say that.